Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Let's Talk Assassin's Creed, your number one podcast for all things Assassin's Creed. In today's episode, we're going to be taking a second look at the Siege of Paris. Now, the reason why I'm doing this second look is just because with when Siege of Paris came out and my next scripted date, it only gave me 48 hours to do a review, and I don't feel 48 hours was enough. And what's better than doing a single review than having two reviews, because our deep dives worked so perfectly the first time because we had an old co-host. So why don't we have a new co-host for a second proper look at the DLC? It's technically not a deep dive, it's more of a review part 2. James, welcome to the party.
Thanks, Declan. Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 94 of Let's Talk Assassin's Creed. So, yeah, we're going to talk about Siege of Paris, the second expansion, the second DLC for Assassin's Creed Valhalla. It was released early August. We've both played through the entire story. I realised this evening when I was doing I quickly dived back into it to have a look at the map and just explore the world, and I realised I still have a couple of world events to do. The offering altars, but I have completed all the other events. What about you, Declan? Have you finished the entire story and world events?
Story, world events, no.
Understood. What, Cairns?
No, I
I think there's
hate
one
Cairns.
or two, isn't there?
I hate Cairns. At this moment, it's proper cheesy, but I got gifted Game Pass, and it ends in 10 days. So I've done the story. I've got 10 days to play games I've never played before. I'm rushing them. I'll
Understood.
come back because I really need to make a Grim Reaper outfit with the Rebel outfit, is it? And then the scythe. So it's my plan. Once.
You've just reminded me of something else I haven't done. I've only got myself up to level 3 with Pierre. And the sort of what would you call them? They're like procedurally generated missions, aren't they?
I just call them Hitman missions.
Hitman missions. We'll call them Hitman missions. I didn't go all the way and collect all of the armor. I've got more to do in Francia. Let's put it like that. I thought I was done. I'm not done.
One trick for the Hitman missions, if you're interested, Joe Raptor actually pointed it out. Archers are better than melee because archers always stay back, so they're less likely to take damage, meaning you get more rewards. So don't take. I think I mentioned that in the first Siege of Paris, but again, don't take melee.
I listened to that episode, and yeah, good tip. Good tip. You can. Let's be honest. You can probably carve through them yourself, can't you? Without too much help from some random rebels.
They never see me coming.
Exactly.
They're all dead before my rebels get there.
That's the way to do it. Yeah. So I tell you what, there's a central story in the DLC which we probably should talk about at length. But should we talk about the world events and the overall map first and get that bit out of the way?
Can do, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what I really liked about the DLC was a small map. You could ride from one end to the other in 5 minutes, 10 minutes. I explored the whole area first. I completed all of the side stories and the cairns. I quite like a cairn. I'm going to say it. I quite like a cairn. Maybe I'm strange. It's fine. But it was just really nice to know that you could go in and within a couple of hours you've kind of explored the entire area. You've got familiar with the area. You found all the little world events and little stories that you might want to come back to, and then you can get on with the main event. There is an interesting world event which I don't know if you've seen some of the updates from Access the Animus in the last few days. So there is a world event which connects to the hidden quest, which we should talk about in a minute as well. Have you seen those updates?
Yes, I've been following quite closely. I'm quite impressed because I remember doing the hidden quest, and then I was adamant AC had to mean something. Like, I know it was cheesy that AC could be Assassin's Creed, but I knew there had to have been something. And to see that Assassin's Creed wasn't giving you a clue on a box or a clue on a code, it was go to a physical location from Paris.
Yes.
Was perfect. You know, it's a community event that I want to see more happening in main game, not just DLCs.
Yeah, it was fun to watch people pick it apart, wasn't it? And see the connections from, was it Saint-Germain? And then to the real Saint-Denis location, Isu language that was hidden in various places. It was a very interesting sort of investigation to watch it unfold. Um, yeah, I like I say, I really enjoyed this as a DLC. It was not too big, um, very straightforward story. I'll tell you one thing I will say, and I'd like to get your opinion on this as the pro here on the show. I felt that Siege of Paris, it has a linear story. It has quite a short story. I think it's only 14, maybe 16 individual quests or memories, if you like. I felt like it was the most traditional Assassin's Creed story we've had in a long time, because of its length and its relative simplicity, as well as, of course, the focus on assassinations. What do you think?
I would agree on if we ignore the ending, because the ending kind of is annoying.
Go on.
So, Assassin's Creed has always played fast and loose with historical accuracy. It still tries to keep a lot of historical accuracy, that's its whole premise. But the final fight with King Charles, the two options, one of them is historically incorrect.
Ah,
And it's the same as the problem that I had with the final mission in Odyssey of Aspia. Historically, she lived. That was historically correct. After the event, she lived and disappeared. There's no known death date, but she did continue. But you could kill her at the end of Odyssey.
I would. Okay, so should we do? Let's quickly talk about Odyssey, and then we'll come back to Siege of Paris. So I didn't feel that disagreed with the history, because Aspasia does disappear from the historical record. Now, whether she disappears because she walks out of the Temple of Cosmos and just goes off into the sunset, or whether because Cassandra kills her, that for me didn't clash with what's known. But for Charles, right? So when I got into the final fight with him, I killed him because I didn't see that there was an option to not kill him. And it was only afterwards when I was chatting with some community members, and they went, "Did you not see the option to not kill him?" So tell me, Declan, what did I do wrong, and that led me to end up killing him in the final fight?
Well, it's kind of weird because there's no. Well, this is all spoilers. I forgot to mention at the start. This is all
Oh yeah,
spoilers.
this is a bit late now. Spoiler,
Um,
sorry everyone.
I'll put it in the Twitter. So you're meant to do the exact same mechanics, throw him in the fire because he hates fire. You're meant to do all that, but you're meant to get behind him and pull the same lever he pulled to shut down the gate, and then you throw him behind the gate, trapping him.
Oh my word!
So there's no actual. It's what kind of annoyed me about the final boss, because I really think if it was a linear ending of throwing him behind the gate, I think they could have had a very linear ending that would have been more impactful, seeing as historically King
Yeah,
Charles did see out the entire raid. So I really think the two cutscenes at the end are very similar, with who's deciding to be the next Parisian leader, and going back home was very simple, but I think it could have been more impactful if you were forced to trap him, and he has a line saying that France will never rest. France will always be against the invaders, and that would have been a bit more impactful. That it would make it Eva feels like she's done her justice stopping the war coming to England, but she must also feel like France may never be truly at rest, which would be a good nod, in my opinion, to unity, because France was a really big unrest in unity. So
true.
having King Charles saying France will never rest, and then you think to yourself, well, look at unity, France never rested, and it had invaders, which would technically be the Assassins and Templars, because they don't natively belong to Paris. They invaded different countries to have their influence. So it's a mind boggle, but that's how I would have played it out. I would have classed the Templar Assassins as the next invaders, and that's what's going to put Paris at an unrest.
I like that interpretation. I tell you what, I'm going to extend that interpretation, and I'm going to say that I killed Charles the Fat in the same way as the Revolutionary Council killed Louis XVI. So there's my mirroring of historical events, even if it's completely ahistorical. You know, I don't even remember him. I remember you walk into the room with him. I don't remember the lever at all. I'd have to go and I mean I can't replay the mission because we can't replay missions, but I don't remember that at all. I have to look it on YouTube to see what I missed, because I just went in and thought, I've got to fight this guy. He's coming at me, and I've got to stop it.
Well, I was just messing around. Like, I don't like fighting in Valhalla. I'm really suck at it. I like to be ninja stealth. So
Mm,
I was dodging a lot of attacks because even though the power level is 200 and I am 360, I do have my difficulty on the highest setting still. So enemies pack a punch in this game for me. So it's always best to avoid. So the fight was taking me about half an hour because I kept dying. And then when I
oh,
found this interact button by a lever and I pressed it, and I was, oh, we could trap him. I was like,
brilliant,
perfect, I'll
brilliant.
trap him.
It was quite a frustrating final fight. I took me quite a while to work out that you had to get him close to those braziers before you stun him, and then you can throw him on the brazier. But yeah, it took me quite a while to get on top of that, and get it done. And let's go back a bit. So the events that lead up to the final fight. So we've got a linear story of exploring Francia and trying to make sure that the Frankish king leaves England alone. What did you feel about the overall story that we went through?
Well, I'm trying not to upset any fans, but I'm a little disappointed. I know I really did praise the DLC in the first deep dive, and I'll still praise it because there is a ton I love about it. I'm with you on the world map. I think the world map is a really great size. But now that I've actually played the whole story, I've gone read walkthroughs just to jog my memory for this episode. I kind of realised that I don't understand the story. Now, I know I've talked in Sisterhood and I've brought it with Six Keys, but she doesn't want England to come, France to come to England for war. She doesn't want war. Makes sense. So she aligns with Siegfried. But in my mind, I'm kind of
Siegfried
like,
is not a peaceable guy, is he?
no. But in my mind, I'm thinking diplomatically how she went to King Alfred in the main game to try and work out peace instead of going to some lackey and then going to King Alfred. Why didn't she linearly go to King Charles first? Because one big line that sticks out to me is when you first meet him, he says, "You murder your way through another land, and you think to stop me driving you back out with negotiation." And it's like, well, you don't expect war not to come to your country if he's basically claiming you've murdered your way through his own country. That's not going to get you anywhere. So I kind of feel like there wasn't enough payoff for the idea. You don't want war. You finally got a way of getting rid of war. But your way to not get war is just to murder everyone. Doesn't it mean that you're hunting for glory? Just like Dag said?
Interesting point. And that's a good point, because you can launch this story quite early on, can't you? From, I think you only have to, is it unlock settlement level 2
I believe
in
so, yeah.
Ravensthorpe? So you make a good point there. It could be that you have a different opinion of Eivor and her story if you play through Siege of Paris early, as opposed to us. We've completed the main game months ago and we're coming back to it now. Eivor doesn't spend that much time negotiating in England, does she? Actually,
No.
that's not true. That's not true. There's a number of arcs where she's sort of playing off different factions and different powers. But there's a lot of death. There's a lot of death in England.
In the Essex arc, she does try and smuggle out the person's wife with Rollo to escape. And that was more diplomatic because it's essentially what Charles wanted. He wanted his wife back, but that didn't end well. But I just kind of feel that when you look at the main game after you beat Dag and you do the Hampshire, I think it's the Hampshire arc, because it's one of the arcs by Jorvik. There's the guy you face. He's very paranoid, but you can see there's a mirror about him being glory, and the glory's turned him paranoid because he still wants glory. Can't remember his name. Is it Halfdan?
That's see, my memory of Valhalla. God, I've only played the game through once, and it was. I mean, I finished it January, so my memory's really bad. I think Halfdan was in Jorvik.
I think I can't remember who it was.
I can't remember.
But with the person I'm on about is
answers on a postcard if you can remember which of England's arcs we find Halfdan. I'm pretty sure it's Jorvik.
I know it's the top one because it's an Englishman who's being run by the It's the Englishman who runs Jorvik that's being run by the Norse that betrays them in the end.
Must be Jorvik then, mustn't it?
Yeah,
Oh,
but
there's also
Eurosphere.
Norse, yeah, in Nottinghamshire.
It's one of them arcs, but
Whatever. Yeah,
it's in that arc that you see that I think it's Halfdan. He was very glory hungry, but it's led him to paranoid, and you see that's what Dag was worried was going to happen to Eivor. And now when I look at the DLC for Siege of Paris, she's murdering away. I don't understand why she went after the bishop other than what Siegfried told her. Like, she didn't do any normal reconnaissance. She just went after him because Siegfried said that he was a bad guy. Whereas,
are we talking about the first of the three main targets?
Yeah.
Archbishop Engelwin. Yeah.
Yes. But when you look at the Order of Ancients in the main game, she gets this knowledge from Haytham, and she learns about them, and she learns that when you do the London Arc and the York Arc, I can't pronounce these old places.
Let's use the modern phrase. Yeah, the Yorkshire Arc. Yeah.
When you do the Yorkshire Arc and the London Arc, you've got information of why you should kill these people. But when you kill Bishop Engelwin, it's just because apparently he's a bad guy. I don't really think.
There is a bit about, I forget the exact wording, but they're sort of mistreating the populace, and he's got these weird religious practices called deliverances, where it's kind of like he's just torturing people for fun. That's how I interpreted it.
Yeah, it was weird.
No, it was weird. He's not a pleasant guy, is he? I mean, he probably deserved a blade in the neck. But yeah, do you know, it's funny. So you felt that Eivor was more of the same kind of combat and killing everyone in the DLC.
Yeah, I feel like I could be wrong and I could be missing something, but really all the missions in that I remember is just fighting, killing, and you legitly do a siege on Paris. You legitly siege Paris.
Yeah.
Which you can't get back into, which sucks. But it's like...
We'll come to that, I guess.
If you contrast it with Wrath of Druids, where she's meeting her cousin and she's helping her cousin and killing Flan, and there's no option, whereas here it's just, I met Siegfried, I don't know a lot about him, but I'm going to trust him, I'm going to murder everyone he tells me to murder, and I'll try and work with King Charles, even though King Charles hates us because we're murdering all the French people. So it's like, can you win, Eivor? One person doesn't trust you, and the other thinks you're murdering his home people. It's not a good way to diplomacy.
I'm going to tell you, I had the complete opposite opinion of the story. Because I felt like at every stage, when Eivor had an opportunity to try not to fight, she tried to negotiate with the king, find an accord, find an agreement. So actually my opinion was more like it was a very different Eivor to what we've seen, where she was looking for a peaceful solution, and it was only that the king was unwell, let's put it like that. He was not a mentally well man. I felt that she was more of a negotiator, as General Grievous would say, rather than just an out-and-out warrior, let's slaughter everyone. Because she does make a point to Siegfried several times that he's already lost a lot of his tribe or his clan in various battles. He can't afford another slaughter, so she was trying to find a sort of another way. Yes, she still kills a lot of people, but it was funny. I got a totally different sort of opinion of her approach. It was much more peaceful and diplomatic. Hey, the three targets still were eliminated, but Odo, all of the interactions with Odo were fascinating.
The were, I will admit.
Yeah, very interesting. Like they meet. Is it 3 times? There's certainly the sort of a sequel meeting. It's 2 or 3 times, and all of their interactions are great. And he was such an interesting guy to watch on the screen and to listen to, I felt.
I think the biggest pro I'd have to give the whole story, even though my interpretation, it does feel a bit more I think it's because there's no like links to the Templars. I think that's where I'm getting it. There's no real maybe that's where my mind's coming, because there's no links to why you have to kill these people, because they're not linked to the Templars or Order of the Ancients. So if there was more of that, I may have felt a bit different. But a biggest pro I would give is Ava does seem older. Like, she's a bit more tired. She just wants it over. She doesn't want any more fighting. It takes some courage for one person to carry the whole weight of a nation for peace. She has nothing to give England. England just tries to kill her clan, push her out of the country, and yet she still walked into a foreign land and was like, hey, don't fight England. I don't want it. Can we just get this over with? So I do feel like it is a glory hungry DLC, but there is that whole emphasis that she's old and she's carrying a whole country on her shoulders, which is weird because she's not even English. So she's an outsider
True.
fighting for England.
True, but that Raven clan, they got to keep their home safe, haven't they? What did you think about the 3 sort of set piece, let's use the phrase, black box assassinations?
Oh, my jaw hit the floor. Kid you not, literally doing the one that sticks out the most. I think I love doing the other two, and the other two are great and very cinematic, but the only one that ever sticks in my mind because I felt it was more cinematic is the very first one, because
Engelwin.
yeah, when you go through the slums, how the world changes from a nice France to a gritty, dark France. And then to get into the church, to hide in plain sight with that cloak, to then be one of his subjects, so he gets rid of all the guards, to then just
it's so
jump
creepy,
off.
isn't it? That guy. Oh,
I think I got creeped out the moment it was like, you have to undress. I was like,
I was like, come on, surely
oh.
not. This is not going where it's going. But yeah, hey, he's still got a blade in the throat, so happy
But
days.
I just kind of felt like that was more cinematic than the rest because of how Eivor became one of his subjects. She blended in plain sight.
Yes.
She was an assassin. It was one of the tenants hide in plain sight, and it just sticks out at that one physical moment. She was a true assassin, and I just love it, and I want more of it.
Do you remember then the second kill, which is Little Mother or Euphrasia, where she puts on is it the cloak of Bella Torres again? I think that's right, isn't it? And then she has to get the special dagger.
Yeah, and you had to go to a blood vat, put the blood in the vat.
Right.
And she fought either one of the disciples.
That's right. I thought that was similar to Engelwin, because you're getting right in close in the inner circle. There's just Richardis, the Queen, there's Euphrasia, and then you, Eivor. And it was just nice to see that in the interplay of the three of them. So you get really close to the target, and again, like you say, a blade in the crowd or blending into the environment and with the target perfectly. It was fantastic. What about Goslin's unique kill?
Oh, which one was that one again? I watched it last night, but mine's gone blank.
It was. That's right. It's during the siege, and you infiltrate his church. Well, you don't have to, but if you do the sort of the hidden route, you get a key to a high level door, and you basically shake loose a vast crucifix.
Oh yeah,
from the wall right up high, and it falls down on his head. It's a very satisfying kill, I have to say.
It was weird.
That one as well.
It was weird because at that moment I just kind of realized, why doesn't Assassin's Creed Valhalla have more of these?
Well,
like, it's an environmental kill. Like, we can do the Syndicate style with the hanging crates, but I would love more like a precarious window ledge or something that you could just knock on someone. That'd be kind of more interesting. More destructive environments.
You make a good point. Even if you didn't want to go from a development point of view, because I guess it's quite time consuming to script all this and code all the animations and everything, but yeah, can you include more, like you say, environmental objects or exploding jars or whatever it is that already exist in the game, but unlock some interesting kills?
I think from what I remember playing Valhalla, I think Valhalla has 4 unique destruction environments. The basic flame jars that you can shoot and blow up.
Yep.
There's crates hanging above certain heads, like Syndicate, so you can just shoot them down. There's platforms that are a bit more wicker that you can shoot
Oh
and they'll fall
yes,
to the platforms.
they're good fun.
And one that's technically not killer, and I think it was Six Keys who told me this, but I did test it and found it hilarious. You can shoot bags of flour and it make like a
Oh,
dust
to make
cloud.
smoke bombs. Yes,
So
yeah.
I would class that as environmental interaction. So you just shoot that, run up, stab them all.
Definitely,
But I just don't
definitely.
like the flower doesn't settle on you, so you look like a ghost. That would have been cooler.
That would be nice. Then you kind of shake it off or something. That would be quite cool. Yeah, yeah.
I think one point I did want to bring about the Black Mox missions is seeing how the unique kills work in Siege of Paris. I'm upset that they didn't add them to York or London because, and I know I discussed with you the other day about this, but it's stuck in my mind. The very first kill in London that you deal with the final Templar before you get to the boat is the one that's on the execution stand. I think that was actually York. No, that might be York or London, but he's on an execution stand, and you can either climb on the top and air assassinate him, or you can just run through the crowd and fight his guards. But it mirrors
I don't remember
assassin.
that one at all. I'm really sorry.
It
Doesn't that mirror one of the kills in Revelations?
it actually is identical to the E3 trailer of Assassin's Creed One
Oh, okay.
because he's standing on a plinth. He executes one of the people for treason, and he's there gobbing it off about how he's like the
Mhm.
justice. And
Yeah.
the more I watch it, and then I play the Siege of Paris, I was like, wouldn't it be so cool if you could walk in the crowd and get a unique assassination where you could run and air assassinate him like the E3 trailer for Assassin's Creed 1? Or if you are on a side, you could get a unique kill with a bow, so like the crossbow he fires in the E3 trailer. I
Mhm.
just thought you don't have to do it for every kill because I think it was mad that every Zealot and Odd Ancients had a confession corridor, but set piece ones could have had unique assassinations.
Definitely. I think we can say then that Siege of Paris has reminded us how satisfying that part of the
Definitely.
gameplay is. Um, we didn't have them in Origins. We didn't have them in Odyssey. We didn't have them in the main game. Like you said, we had all those Order of Ancients targets, and even if you hadn't, like you say, there was how many zealots is there in
50, I think.
right? That's a lot of unique kills. But even if you'd have done the what were they called? Was it the Paladins or the Magisters, the sort of the senior members of the
Yeah, the four
Order of
senior
Ancients?
members.
Yeah, they could have been a little more. But you know what? If we've got it back, this kind of assassination structure, there's no reason we can't have it in future games. The
I hope so.
capability exists, doesn't it, within
Yeah,
the animation and the coding of the game engine? So maybe it'll be back for the future.
I hope so. I really want more unique kills. I think playing it again in Valhalla was just so satisfying. Just to pick my
Mm-hmm.
route and
Mm-hmm.
get in, get the secret passcode. I just loved it. I want it again.
Yep, yep, same. I think we spoke about this a lot last week, didn't we? But doing that first one with Engelwin and cloak on, walking quietly through the town, gathering the information, understanding the route, sneaking in through the guards, it was just perfect.
I
Perfect.
think the last thing I will say on it, what made it perfect, is I missed a step. I went to the slums, but I never went to find the guard's daughter, the guy's daughter who was Minister Silver. So I didn't find her. I just found the slums with I can't remember who it was, but it gives you a passcode for I think it's John 16.
Yes, that's right.
I
Something
just
like that. Yeah.
I just found that, went through the gates, talked to some guy, picked up the cloak, and I was like, it's so accessible. You don't have to do every step. You can do enough steps to get in, and that's just so accessible. It was so easy and so rewarding.
Yeah, it was. It was. I enjoyed it very much. Did you when we first arrive in Melon with Siegfried, it opens up a couple of branching options for us as the story. So we've got the main story. We can go to the Paris slums and start exploring there. We can do our side quests for Pierre. voiced by Dan Janot, who voiced Arno. So happy days, nice to hear his voice back in Assassin's Creed. And we open up an option. We have to interact with a note in the main hall, but we open up another quest called Hidden. Did you do Hidden first, or did you save it till last?
Well, now you've confused the hell out of me, so I will admit that on the show because I didn't know there was a note. Like, I did Melon, did the first quest, and as I was doing a mission for Pierre, I found a hidden one to him by accident. I didn't
Interesting.
I didn't know it was there. I just found it by a viewpoint. So I did the tomb, and then I found a note inside the tomb that started hidden. So I was like, oh,
Oh,
so that's how I
I got
started
it.
it.
Well, this is great. I mean, this shows that there's multiple ways of opening up or unlocking this story. So after you complete the sort of the intro story and you're in Melon, um, I basically explored the town and I was repeatedly mashing the Odin site key, um, and it picked out a couple of items of interest in the main hall. So I was a good explorer and I checked everything and I read all the notes. And there's a letter on one of the tables in there. I forget what it says now, but it's something like, I've seen evidence of people hiding in the shadows or whatever it says. And that, for me, that triggered the option to start the hidden quest. Now I saw the word hidden and I thought I need to do this right away. So I rode the length and breadth of the map, doing the three getting the three keys you need to unlock the main location and everything. And it was quite satisfying to do that, and see the little note at the end as a payoff for the note from AC.
I think what stood out the most about the note from AC, and I brought this up immediately because, and I'm going to hold my hands up, I didn't do the final ending for Hidden. I actually haven't completed it because I saw a lot of leaks for Cassandra being back in Valhalla. And I saw an article on IGN that read, how does Cassandra appear in Valhalla? And I sped read it, and I didn't see the spoiler tag. And it was legitimately a walkthrough to the hidden quest. And then at the very end, it just had the one line at the bottom, she's not in the DLC. So I was
Come
like,
on.
pure clickbait. But I read it because I wanted to know if she was in
Yeah.
it. I didn't expect there
Yeah.
to be a whole quest. So I only saw a video 2 days later of the ending, and it blew me away that you walk in and you walk out, and the insignia is on fire, and there's a letter. Someone's following Eivor, and that was like,
Pretty cool. Yep.
why are they following us? And it kind of made me speculate: does the assassin follow Eivor home for future DLC?
Could be. I mean, you'd have to speculate further. I suppose communications take time in the 9th century, so they're obviously not going to be emailing each other. But would the assassin not know of Hytham and Basim's trip to Norway and then to England? Is it setting up a future chapter? Will they meet? It'll be interesting to see how it goes. Certainly, there have been a number of leaks recently, and it's quite frustrating because, I don't really want leaks for future stories and side content, whether it's a main DLC or just an individual story. I'd rather not have any speculation and leaks about the return of characters or what characters are going to do. I want to see the story when it's ready, and then go and play it. I did enjoy the hidden one. The hidden story. It did tempt me straight away. I kind of ignored everything else. I completed the hidden story, and then I explored the world, and then I went and did the linear main story last. As you were exploring, and as the DLC played out, did you find any connections to Unity, obvious or otherwise?
I didn't know. I've looked, but I haven't seen anything. But I'm not skillful as most people.
I haven't actually Googled this, so I'm sure, like you say, there are probably very, very smart people out there who have found all kinds of references. There was two that I spotted. Well, actually, there's four. Two that I didn't work on, and two that I spotted. So I'll go through what I spotted. So right at the start of the DLC, when we're in Ravensthorpe, and Pierre and Toka arrive in the town, and they have a feast that night, and they're bringing in the wine and they're celebrating. And there's a young boy that runs through the crowd, and he steals an apple off the table, which I just thought was a great little callback to little Arno and little Elise in Versailles, when she encourages him to steal the apple right at the start of the game. And then I don't know if this was deliberate or not, but when you're in Melon, there's a lot of talk of different members of the Watch disappearing. And normally you would just say guards or soldiers. And I wondered why they kept using the word watch. Is it a reference to Arno's watch, or Arno's father's watch that he carries? So that always made me smile every time I heard them mention the word watch. I thought, yeah, that's a little reference to Charles Dorian's pocket watch that got sadly broken. The other two references that I saw, there's the main sort of mystery in Saint Denis, unpicking the Isu language. Really, for us as players, unless you're an expert or have a lot of time, you're not going to be unpicking that code yourself. But we can go into the vaults or the crypts underneath the Saint Denis church, mirroring what we can do in the Dead Kings DLC. But I kind of was a little disappointed. I would like to have explored a bit deeper underground, or maybe even followed the path through the hallways, mirrored from what we had in Dead Kings into what we had in Siege of Paris, so that we could be very clear we are walking where Arno will walk in 700 years, 800 years' time. But it was quite simple and it was quite short. And it was a little bit disappointing. I would have liked something for us sort of average players to pick out as they were exploring Saint Denis, to go, hey, yeah, there's a little reference. But unfortunately, they were those references and the codes, they were pretty hardcore. And I certainly didn't contribute to any of the work to unpick them. I was quite happy sitting back and watching other members of the community do it. And the fourth reference I spotted, and this was something that Sebastian, Memento Gallery, I think he made a short video about it and shared it on Twitter. When Eivor is talking to Siegfried about the first target, Engelwin, there's a conversation between the two of them, just a few sentences, and it mirrors Belek's conversation with Arno when they're on the rooftops planning the assassination of Sever. And it's just a couple of lines, you need to plan your own route and do it on your own. And Eivor and Arno both say, yeah, I'll do that. I know what I'm doing, kind of thing. And it was just a nice little mirroring of those two sort of events between Eivor and Arno. So those were the two references I spotted, and then two references that other members of the community have pulled out, which was quite nice. I'd have liked a little more. I'm always up for a Unity reference.
I think the biggest Unity reference that I speculated with a few friends and was so heartbroken that it wasn't there is the Sword of Eden. Now, I know it would have been over the top to do it, but Unity did mention Unity's first draft, if I remember correctly, was following the Sword of Eden through time and how it came to Paris. I think that was the first draft for Unity, and I thought, wouldn't it have been such a cool reference for Eivor to find a Sword of Eden, not understand what it is, and just put it back in its place? Even if it was just an interaction, like, she doesn't understand what this sword is and why it's glowing, but she just puts it back and walks off because she doesn't understand what it is. That would have just been perfect.
Or you see it through a crack in the wall, but you can't get to it. Yeah, like you say, some visual or really obvious interactable moment where you see it. That would have been great. I've heard about this first draft, and I must go and find more about it and see what it was. But yeah, definitely. Would you say a missed opportunity there, or is it better to leave some things unwritten?
I think it's a difficult one. I think it's a bit of both. It is a missed opportunity, yes, but at the same time, probably not worth the time putting it in it, because Unity is still highly underrated. So with all the player base coming from the new games, they may have not actually played Unity, so they would have been like, oh, don't really understand it. But
Am I allowed to make a shameless plug to anyone listening?
Yes.
If you haven't played Unity, you really need to play Unity.
It's
awesome.
Unity actually, Siege of Paris got me playing Unity, to be fair.
This is the way, my friend. What else have we missed?
I think that
Did you
covers.
finish all of the stuff for Pierre? I think we've spoken about Pierre. Like I said, I only did a couple of the missions for him.
I've only done a couple as well. I enjoyed them. I think they're really one of the best content added because they're kind of my sort of style. Like, you can go solo or you can go a team. It's just France has a big issue with me that I can't shake, and it's a very silly one that I'm admitting. But I talked about in first um, deep dive. It's just the fact that no one attacks me on sight unless
Oh yes, good
unless
point.
you don't aim a weapon at them, unless you don't go in a restricted area, because you're new to this land, it's logical that no one attacks you. But when you look at Wrath of the Druids, when you look at all of England, when you look at Norway, you're always getting attacked. It's
True.
second nature.
Yeah.
You walk from Ravensthorpe to London, you're going to get jumped 20 times. Just walking around entire France and not getting jumped by guards felt so surreal that when I went into these camps and cleared them out like a ninja, because that's what I can do, they didn't feel any risk reward because they're not going to start on me unless I go inside the red area. So as long as I stay out the red area and shoot them from afar, they're not really going to be that interested because they're not going to come out the area they're programmed to. So I just shot a lot of guards from afar, one shot kills, and just did the same trick over and over again.
Understood. Understood. Yeah, it was certainly a lower risk area, wasn't it? It was pretty safe just to roam around. I'll tell you one thing I've just thought of as you were speaking. What did you think of the new abilities? We had Ghoul's Breath, we had the Rat Kill ability that I can't remember the name of, and there was a third one. What was the third one?
I haven't tested the new abilities. I
I
haven't
used the
found
Rat
them.
one a couple of times. That was quite fun. I was when I was going into Odo's Palace, I think it was in the city. I used the rat ability a few times to distract some guards and get them out of my way so I could sneak through, and that worked quite well from a rooftop, I must say.
I think it's hard because I'm so addicted to Origins, his playstyle, where there wasn't a mana wheel. All the abilities were passive, that I've grown accustomed to now making a locked assassin. I don't change Eivor's abilities. They're always the same. Feign Death, Harpoon, um, the slowdown time one for assassination, and I can't remember what the fourth melee one is. And the range is always smoke, poison, because I love the miasma ability. Smoke, poison, call friend, because you always need a wolf to be by your side.
Of course, always need a wolf.
And the slow down time shots with the bow, because I always like to slow down time and then shoot one after one's headshots because it feels more realistic. It's like
Yeah.
Eivor slowing the breath down and picking targets instead of just highlighting all four and just firing 4 hours at once. But that's all I've used, and I've been using that for about 100 hours now.
It's funny you mention that because this is not sort of specific to Siege of Paris, but I used the rat ability a few times to try it out. But actually, in Valhalla, apart from throwing axes, I rarely use the abilities at all because I just find I don't need them. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Probably makes my combat a bit boring, but yeah, I wanted to try the rat one just because it looked like fun, and it was quite fun to see all these little rats appear and crawling all over the bad guy, and then he dies or he's out your way or whatever. But yeah, it would certainly make you shudder if you're not happy with seeing rats. But yeah, like you, I rarely use most of the abilities in Valhalla. They're just not needed. I just want that ranged assassination option, like we were speaking about last week.
To be honest, I just want passives. Like, the best thing about Origins, and I don't see why they had to change it, it's the only pet peeve I have with the Mythology trilogies, you have smoke bombs and poison. I think it's. No. You have a torch in one hand, which is just left on the D pad because I use controller, and then you have smoke bombs and poison sleep arrows as your other tools, and the rest is just passives. That's
Yeah,
all the skill tree was just passives. Passives in if you get more loot when you assassinate an enemy. And then I really loved the skill tree for Valhalla was a lot of it was passives. Like, all of it was just passives, and I was like, that's what I want. Finding the abilities, logical. You find a book, you learn from it, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I don't want them. It sounds stupid, but if I'm crafting rations, I want to craft smoke bombs. If I'm crafting rations, I want to craft whistle darts. I don't need abilities, and that's just a pet peeve I have. If Origins can do it, why can't the rest?
Mm.
And that's just kind of why I don't really like them much.
Understood. I suppose you wonder if they had to follow on from Odyssey, which is of course very heavy on abilities, active and passive. Although I must admit, when I play Odyssey, I don't use the active abilities. It's a lot of fun just with the passive abilities. It's certainly more challenging. And maybe it's the same for Valhalla. You don't need the active abilities, that's for sure. What I was wondering was, how would you rate Siege of Paris compared to Wrath of the Druids? There are no werewolves in Francia, so that's a big negative, as we know.
Judging by how I'm not too sold on the story, I'm probably going to rate it higher than Wrath of Druids. Now, I love Wrath of Druids' story. I loved how werewolves was given a very basic explanation at the start. It's a fog, makes sense. Just the pet peeve I have is the map size and the intervals between interactions and no interactions. It took me 30 minutes to do a 20-second clip of taking out 4 guards
Yeah.
with a smoke arrow. 30 minutes between combat is annoying. Like, you don't even get that in Valhalla. In the main game, you don't get 30 minutes between kills. That's weird. But it's just so Roman hills in Ireland, no one's there. Whereas
Ireland was beautiful to explore, but you make a good point. Could they have just taken out some of the empty space, shrunk it all down a bit, and made for a more engaging game?
Whereas the size of Paris, yeah, I don't like that guards don't start on you. That annoys the heck out of me. But exploring it is fun. You know, you see everything and you get to keep this atmosphere. And if you start a fight, at least it's fun because you know you've not spent an hour going from Mulan to somewhere else, meeting nothing but a hedge. You know, you've done
Yes.
10 minutes across the map and you've picked a fight with 40 guards because you want to. That's fun. That's Assassin's Creed. I remember going around Rome in Assassin's Creed 2 killing guards just for fun.
Yeah.
To start a fight. And that's what Siege of Paris allows me to do. They're not going to attack me. But if I attack them, I can get 40 at 1, take them all out, and I'll feel like an Ezio again or an Altair. And that's just why I probably give it a pro. And unique assassinations.
Absolutely, definitely a big draw. I mean, I enjoyed both of the stories, but I'm definitely, my opinion is changing over time. I'm preferring shorter, more contained stories, and Siege of Paris delivered that. That's for sure.
I think I just want. I think if I could change anything in Paris, I just want to be noticed a bit more. I want guards to pick a fight with me. Plus, also, if you're gonna have choices in a game, then really, as you annoyed Charles, then your reputation should go up. And as we've discussed I think it was just a phone call, they should have brought an Ezio mechanic back, and that is town criers. The more,
that would have been great, wouldn't it?
the
Wouldn't that
more
have been
we,
great?
the more we annoy Charles, or the more we just do something stupid like, oh, that guard's not attacking me, so I'm going to point an arrow at his head. The more town criers like, look out for this northerner, she's doing this and this, and then guards get more interested in you. But if you bribe him or kill him because he's not a civilian, so just take him out back and do him in,
Absolutely.
you go back to having a neutral state. It's similar to a mercenary system, but without a nemesis system. So it's a bit smaller and a bit more fun because you can choose to do it or not. And I would want
I
it.
like that. But when are you doing game design? I'm looking forward to this.
I failed GCSE art, so that's what I'm.
There's time. There's always time.
And my friend said to me, "Hey Declan, I'm going to teach you how to code a website." My dyslexic brain went, nope.
Oof, no, I don't write code either. No thanks. People who write code are like people who play games with controllers. Their minds function on a higher level.
I actually did build a website. There's actually a website that I built.
Oh, nice.
I think it's actually still around unless you shut it down, but it took me 14 hours to build one page because my dyslexic brain kept getting the coding wrong.
Oh, that's got to be tricky. I mean, yeah, code has got to be 100% correct, otherwise it won't work. So yeah, that would certainly be tricky.
Oh yeah, I think I know this is way off topic, but I think I put a C instead of a K in one of the lines. Did you think won't do much? Oh no, when you press the hyperlink to go to Facebook, it actually for some reason took you to YouTube. But it
Oh, nice.
wasn't even the YouTube channel for the activity. It was a YouTube channel for some random other channel. We don't know how it got mixed up or how it worked. I just missed a K, but it still took me to some randomers YouTube channel.
Fantastic. And you've never coded since, I'm guessing.
No, just cheesy mobile games where they're like, practice coding. Yeah, I'll practice coding. No, I'll give in.
Very
It's
good.
gone.
Yeah, yeah. I tell you, we'll leave the coding to the professionals, and we'll just play the games and then share our opinions afterwards.
But they can hire me for ideas if they want.
Absolutely,
I'm
absolutely.
always available. Just come my way, give me some ideas. I'll relay back to you and everyone else for make sure the law's correct and give you the ideas. Ubisoft, hire us. So, better still, hire the podcast as an official Ubisoft podcast. That's what they should do.
Now you're talking. Why not? Why
Why not? Just Ubisoft be like, hey, you're an official podcast. Here's some money. Do what you want. Yep. Cheers.
not? That's
Sorted.
it. We're retiring. We might even make this professional. What do you reckon? Nah,
If
we'll keep it casual.
if a game developer turns my podcast into official Assassin's Creed one with a little blue tick on Twitter, I'm not going to put that down. I want that blue Twitter tick.
Happy days, mate. That's great. That's great. So, final thoughts on Siege of Paris. I mean, I enjoyed it very much. I enjoyed the story. The world was really beautiful. I enjoyed the assassinations. I thought it was kind of a. It didn't have. I know it didn't have Templars in it, which is absolutely fair criticism, or Order of Ancients. Let's get our terminology right. But I thought it was a pretty good self-contained DLC.
It was an Assassin's Creed DLC. That's all I'll say. That was an Assassin's Creed DLC. Just give us more of that. Even if the next one is blooming mythology, Melfheim through Odin's memories, if I don't get Odin to unique kill, I don't know, what's it called? A Jotunheim or a big werebear in Asgard or whatever, I'm not going to be impressed. Like, imagine him just like 300 style standing there, and as a bear jumps him, he just plunges his spear up as a unique kill. Perfect.
Fantastic.
People are going to think I'm crazy at the end of this.
No, it's all good. I mean, It is a good point because we from the reveal in the summer, we're kind of assuming the next DLC will be Muspelheim, and therefore will be mythological, like Fate of Atlantis kind of thing. Are we assuming that? Or are we going to go back to the Asgard maps and Jotunheim maps that we've already been to, or will it be somewhere entirely new? It kind of suggested like a lava-based world, didn't it, from that very brief glimpse we got? So maybe it'll be an entirely new map.
I think Melfheim is like their version of Hell.
Right.
If I'm allowed to quickly plug this in, because I want credit. We are 53 minutes in. It's the 8th of the 9th. I'm getting credit for this. The Melfheim DLC, in my opinion, will be a memory of Harvey only. It will not be a memory of Eivor, but it'll be Loki remembering Ragnarok, the Toby catastrophe. Because I believe, and everyone calls me crazy, that the reason they went out with weapons at the end of the truth video is there's something more than just a solar flare out there. I think they're going to war, which makes sense. They've already got themselves secure. Prophecy stated the sons are bringing Ragnarok. You know, the world serpent kills Thor, Fenrir kills Odin, but they're all Loki's legit children. So at the end of the world, they're the ones that are targeting everyone. So I'm hoping it's actually a memory of Loki witnessing his son kill Thor at the end of the world. And just this is the memory we actually play through that. The first time we ever get to play a true Isu DLC. That's what I'm wanting.
That would be fantastic. So you think then we wouldn't play as Eivor / Havi? You think we would play as Loki?
Yes, I'm thinking we'll play as Loki. Just how when you unlock Harvey at the end and you play the Animus memories as as Loki,
as
as
Basim.
Basim.
Yeah,
Well,
that's a good point, because we have Basim now in the Animus. He can experience the bleeding effect. He can go further back into his repressed, or whatever the right word is, memories. Very interesting. Well, you heard it here first. What is the date? 8th of September.
yeah.
53 minutes in. Declan's calling it.
Plus, if I would like to get a little bit grounded, to make it more grounded, Harvey does mention he's been using animuses before because of his Isu knowledge. It is possible that Eivor in sometimes life could have another potion, just like she did with Asgard. So the world she sees is an Asgardian world. Like, it's fake, it's mythological, but we get another truth scenario where we see it through rose tinted glasses. So he's shown us Eivor's memory, but we still get the truth, which is an actual real battle through Loki's eyes. And that's what I'm expecting to see. Even if it's just truth videos, I think we're going to get it. I think we're going to get Loki witnessing the death of Odin, because he's still pissed at Odin for killing or locking up Fenrir or somebody else. So, just, it's a mad theory.
All right. I wonder how long we'll have to wait. What's your prediction? I mean, New Year? Spring next year, maybe?
Spring.
Yeah.
Same time as
When
Wrath
did
of Druids.
Wrath of Druids was spring, wasn't it? Was it April?
May the 13th, I think.
May. It's late as May. Okay.
I think it was May, yeah. Yeah, I think April was the original date, but then it got pushed back.
Understood.
So yeah, I'm going to say May next year. Make a lot of sense.
All right. We'll put £10 down on it, shall we?
Yeah, if I had £10 on us. So I think that's all we've got time for this week. So thank you all for joining, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you've got any thoughts, you know where to hit us up at Assassin's Creed Let's Talk at gmail.com. Just hit me up with any ideas and feedback. You can also reach out to Twitter, AC Let's Talk, or James's Twitter at
James Tiddly Quid.
Love the name. So you can reach out to us, fire off any ideas you want. If you want to be on the show, just reach out to one of us, and we'll always welcome you on the show. If you check out my pinned comments, and I'm going to start plugging this, there is a really handy guide in the Linktree link for how to be a guest on the show and how it works if you're very curious. So we'll see you all next week.
Thanks for listening. See you soon.